Okay, welcome back, everyone. If you can take your seats. So our next session is an update on major international developments. And so for this, I'd like to invite to the stage Mario Colavita, who's the section manager for the Certification Director's Office.
So, good morning, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are talking about international developments. For those of you who have attended previous events like this, certification conference, you may know that this is a recurrent topic where we are expected to provide a brief on the major achievements of the year, as well as, let's say, the ahead decisions for the upcoming years. And when we describe the objectives associated to international cooperation, we may spend, I think, the full slot to do that. But at the same time, I think it's necessary here at least to start mentioning some of them that are priority for us. And in doing this, of course, always taking into account the overarching principle of safety, I would like to mention the effort that is spent to gain efficiency by reducing the validation effort. A second objective of international cooperation that is certainly close to the heart of the industry is to enhance predictability. And we will see also in the next slides that effort has been put on this domain, but we also acknowledge that more work can be done and there is room for improvement. And last but not least, to have more compatible rules that is particularly important when talking about innovation and the driving force of this domain in certification. Why these three objectives should be considered priority? Because each of them, and still more when in conjunction, they have an impact on one element that we should never neglect, that is the time to market. Now, how to reach these objectives? Well, I would say that we have the traditional approach by strengthening the bilateral relationships. And also very important for us is to work on a quadrilateral base with the other main certification authorities, namely FAA, Transport Canada, and ANAC, in the framework of the certification management team. And I would like to start mentioning the main achievements in this domain, where we recently got the signature in occasion of the CMT plenary week, end of October, of the CMT Collaboration Strategy Revision 1. That is an important step forward with respect to the previous document that was signed 8 years ago. This is an 11 pages document that I would suggest you to read on our website that is focusing on the two domains of partnership leveraging and certification policy alignment. It is a dynamic document that is for the time being identifying four main strategic objectives to be achieved in a time frame of 5 years. I say dynamic because the objectives can change when results are achieved, but also when new priorities arise. And the four objectives are improve efficiency of validation procedure, increase recognition of operational evaluation performed by the certification authority, facilitate transferability of products with new or emerging technologies, in particular where systems are not harmonized. And the fourth strategic objective that is in a way complementing the previous one, is to coordinate rulemaking process to make as far as possible harmonize standards and policies. For each objectives, we have identified expected outcomes and so-called key results. We have a total of 15 of them in the document. And now, next slide is not a site test for you, but it's just to give you an example of the structure of the document. In this case, related to the strategic objective number 3, transferability of products certified with new or emerging technologies when in absence of compatible or harmonized regulatory systems. And on the right side, you can see the 4 streams of results that are expected that cover the area of drone, light sport aircraft, new technology on sustainability, including but not limited to eVTOL, electric hybrid propulsion, and use of hydrogen. And the last one that is also looking at artificial intelligence and machine learning, where we expect to achieve an identification and agreement on common requirements and means of compliance. Now, just to conclude on the CMT part, I would like to remind that we work in that framework through collaborative groups and task-specific teams. And in this sense, I'm happy to report the positive closure of the TST on common mode error in critical systems in large aircraft. That was certainly a challenging task, where a final report is now expected to be issued by the end of January. And in line with what we just presented on the previous slide, the CMT also agreed to open a new group specifically dedicated on artificial intelligence and autonomy. And on this, currently, the burden is on us to draft the terms of reference as EASA. So when we move to the domain of bilateral relationship, I think it's fair to start with an update on FAA. And I apologize if in one single slide I could not report all progresses made in all sectors and domains. As you know, in particular as announced already last year, 2024 was the year where we saw the issuance of the TIP Revision 7 that is now going to be subject to an amendment on a very limited scope. I would like to raise your attention on the next 2 bullet points that are highlighting important achievements. One is about the agreed simplification of the validation process for low-risk aircraft, namely CS23 Level 1, Level 2, and CS27 Class 1 and Class 2. And also the very recent achievement of having a common work plan template and job aid that has been developed by the Validation Project Review Group. So thank you, Charles, for your help and contribution on this. That will be ready to be implemented beginning of 2025, 1st of January. There will be also a training session on the 18th of December, already planned. And this is certainly going in the direction of increasing predictability and paving the way also for future similar works with the other authorities. On the SAI lists, certainly we have important achievements in terms of simplification for CS23, 27, and 29, and the common understanding of more effort to be put on CSE and CS25, in particular for next year. A working group will work on human factors. Has already been established and activities are planned 2025. And here the objective is to reduce the level of involvement in the validation process in this domain of human factor. On eVTOL, progresses have been made in several sectors. There are some others like battery thermal runaway, high energy fragments and single point failures that remain challenging, but the very good news is the common intent and objective to remain aligned, and we have a target already in Q1 2025 to issue simultaneously FAAC and EASA SC issue 3. The same, we had improvements on the MML, where we are mostly observing the progresses made on the other side of the Atlantic. And for the hydrogen working group, we had now some initial bilateral that was moved to an international group, so with the CMT and extended participation to UK CAA, because we recognize the contribution that they could provide. Very quickly, because time is running, on the China side, we had very fruitful cooperation on the technical projects, very intense activity also on management, at management level, as you can see from May to September, a number of important meetings. There are some open domains where we look for a stricter implementation of the TIP, in particular for the level of involvement from China. On fuel additives, we have also some work to be done on the test results of existing additives and also for the assessment of new ones. And an area of work is also on the expected acceptance from China of production based on validation of European design. With Brazil, here I'm very happy to report very significant progresses that have been made with the signature of the TIP revision signed that will enter into force 26th of January 2025. This is a document that is based on the lessons learned from the EASA FAA BASA revision 6, introducing the concept of basic and non-basic, and has a number of very positive feedback in terms of, let's say, efficiency gain, in particular for the STCs with the introduction of streamlined validation process, and for the TCs, up to the level of having a definition of basic, so streamlined validation under conditions that there are no special condition, no ELOs, and no deviations. Here we have a dedicated training session already planned for 28-29 of January. And on OSD, we are also observing a convergence with Brazil, where there will be publication of rule and guidance introduced in January 2025. Sorry. Very quickly, just to say that with Canada, we are planning a similar work, new revision of the TIP, and lessons will be learned in terms of language and concepts. Let's go quickly because I see that Colin is already calling my attention. Just to report mostly on UK CAA, where we have a very good relationship on the technical level with quarterly meetings and a very effective exchange of sharing of information. On the practical area and as a result of the Certification Oversight Board, I would just highlight two remaining areas of dialogue. One is about a British request to add provisions to the TIP to enact the UK-EU Trade and Cooperation Agreement. Basically, is to have the POA acceptance of design that are not validated by EU and vice versa. And also to start looking at maintenance of confidence, although in this case we are basically saying that we would like to learn the experience that we are gaining with a similar exercise already started with the FAA. Israel, negotiation for the new BASA started in September, and the existing working arrangement has been extended for the time being. I think that's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mario. We're short of time, but I think we should take a few questions.
Yeah,
so
sure,
if we
with
can go
pleasure.
to Slido and see what we... So when will there be a PMA parts manufacturer approval in the EASA world like in the FAA? I would say nothing's planned currently at the stage, and we have no intention. I don't know whether Joachim, do you want to say anything, or that answers from your point? Okay. Okay, so at the moment there is nothing planned in the rulemaking to move in this direction. Okay. Okay, many new projects are under special conditions. How does the EASA and the CMT enable efficiency of validation projects and foster recognition of the certifying authorities? What is the approach?
I don't know if Charles wants to provide some specific feedback on this, since it is technical on validations. Do you have a mic?
There should be a mic on the front, I don't know.
Good morning, Charles Leboeuf. I'm in charge of the validation process at EASA. I understand by this question special conditions when we've got projects that implement a special condition in a survey. That's the sense I understand this question. And I would say that typically for all the tips, the special conditions are one of the specific criteria that trigger an involvement of the validating authority, which makes sense because that means that this is an area whereby the certification by the certificating authority has considered particular patterns, so that makes sense that the validating authority is involved. What we can say is that we've got various provisions in certain tips, like the tip with the FAA, where we say that if there is a special condition and you've got the equivalent, then you should only do the administrative action of raising your own certification material without specifically being involved. So we try to streamline and be as commensurate as possible in our involvement in the special conditions.
Okay.
Apart from that,
I would take the next one if I can.
Yes. Okay. Yes, we.
Thanks, Charles. Where we have a drone squad activity that is reporting to CMT. And in this case, I would say that more than harmonization of rules, we are talking about ensuring transferability. So the team is working hard to find, let's say, the area of overlaps that would help on transferability. So the progress is certainly positive, but the task is not easy. Yeah?
Okay, thanks, Mario. And then maybe one more. So do you foresee UK CA involvement in other CMT activities in addition to the hydrogen?
Well, I would say that this is really on a case-by-case scenario that I cannot consider an easy and immediate extension to all areas, all domains. But definitely, this is a very good example of having an open-minded approach.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's safe to say that it's clear that there are a number of startup organizations looking at hydrogen in the UK, and therefore it made a lot of sense on this one because of those organizations based in the UK to involve them in that specific task. So unfortunately, we've run out of time there. I think that's all we have. You may see Mario around, or myself, or one of the others, or we may have other questions, opportunities later in the end. Thank you very much, Mario.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so for the next item, it's now time for industry. So we have a debrief from the Part 21 workshop side meetings. So I'd like to invite all the speakers to join me on stage. So that is Elisabetta Buscatti from Avio Aero, Yari Doria from UKCAA, Manuela Hiefinger from Air Ambulance Technology, Celine Rouge from Daher, Mikael Thaler from Ames, Romain Boang Sepoa from Eclipse, Kyle Martin from Gamma, and Romina Vassallo from System X Ceramic Coatings. Hello. Yeah. If you. Yes. Yes. Okay, so although this is called Debrief from Part 21 workshop, this is really aimed at the side meetings that were there yesterday. So obviously, Everybody involved could not obviously attend a numerous number of these. The reporters are generally from the morning session. We couldn't set it up. It would have been too complex to capture all the feedback from both sessions. So if you were in the afternoon session, you may reflect that things said there may not be represented here in the presentation up here. But feel free to either put a point in Slido, because what we'll do is we'll ask each of the reporters to have 5 minutes to present their slides that have been prepared, and then at the end we'll have questions for all 8 of them. So if we can start with Elisabetta on the first side group. If you can go to the lectern actually for the talk on DOA competence management.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Elisabetta Buscatti. I am a consulting engineer in the Chief Engineer's Office of Avio Aero, that is a part of GE Aerospace. And I'm here today to try to summarize in a few minutes the outcome from yesterday's side meeting on DOA competence management. Let's see. I'm losing seconds. First of all, let me say that it was a very interesting session. With many open discussion. We had the possibility to share best practices across the team, share opinion, and also ask a clarification to the DOA team leaders that were moderating the meeting. So overall, a very positive session. We were able to touch 4 main topics that you see on the screen, starting with the competence management that has to be inside the DOA with respect to what can be delegated to the supplier, because on some specific discipline or also on some small DOA, having all the competencies inside the DOA could be an issue. It was clarified that the DOA does not need to have all the competencies inside, but of course need to demonstrate, to have the capability to assess the deliverables that are coming from the suppliers, and also to know the applicable certification requirement to be able to define the right certification programs, and then also later on to verify compliance. In this case, of course, particular emphasis should be put on the oversight of the design supplier in the frame of the independent system monitoring. The second point is that based on, of course, on the criticality of the subcontracted activity, a risk-based approach should be performed to mitigate all possible issues. And this, of course, also in the frame of the new SMS approach. The second topic was related to competence assessment, or how the competence assessment, initial qualification, or recurrent checks can be done. Because with respect to other regulation, Part 21 leaves more flexibility on the DOAs to define their own qualification process and how to manage and maintain competencies. On this topic, more guidance is needed, and in fact, taking credit from initial work performed by an SAB working group, another industry is proposing to have another working group to develop a specific standard on competencies that could be later on become an AMC. We had and prioritization by EASA would be appreciated here. In this moment of discussion, we also had the possibility to share best practices across participants, and it was interesting to see how the similarity can be found on what is concerning the basic training, organizational training on Part 21, SMS, how the DOH processes are flowed down, but instead to see how differently the technical discipline, the technical competencies are developed inside the organization. The third topic that was touched is a bit connected to the second one, was related to understand what could be the minimum standard for the authorization of staff, in particularly the staff exercising the privileges. And Part 21 already defines the minimum requirement for the key personals, and also AMC 21A263 already highlighted the preconditions to exercise privileges, including the competence of the airworthiness function. But again, for all the rest, it's up to the DOA to define the minimum standard that need to be considered. Of course, the recommendation is to tailor this requirement based on the activity and the overall deliverable that are expected for that function. And the fourth topic was related to new competencies for new functions and operational suitability, with a specific focus on safety managers and operational suitability specific competencies. For safety managers, the competencies are very detailed in part 21, but particular attention should be given to the human factors and human performance aspect, because this is a concept that is coming from operations, and it's pretty new for the DOA and therefore particularly challenging. For what concerns OSD, to assess competencies on operational suitability data, there is the need to have inside the DOA personnel with operation competencies, and include also in the package of training for the specific personnel also all the CSE related to operations. And with that, I am already out of time, a few seconds, but that was all for this group. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, if we move to group 2, so Yari from CA. So this was level of involvement implementation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yari Dauria. I'm one of the design and situation manager at the UK CA. My team is responsible for delivering projects more airplanes, VTOL innovation. This morning, I'm bringing you the highlights of the level of involvement implementation side meeting from yesterday's session. And again, like my colleague before me, it was a very interesting and open discussion. Lots of feedback from the room. The four main topics that we highlighted today are around the DOA performance mainly. Some are a bit more controversial than others, but I'm going to run through them as quickly as possible to recover some time. So the first one was around design organization performance ratings by the agency experts. The room voiced some concerns about what the agency experts are rating in terms of performance, the design organization. So it felt that more guidance, clarity, explanation is needed from EASA to basically explain how the ratings are determined. This, in the opinion of the colleagues in the room, will be very useful for industry, as many organizations will want to, with more guidance, with defined criteria, it will help them to, let's say, put some building blocks in place to improve their performance and achieve better ratings, which will drive a lower LOI for future projects. The second subject was related to that, but was more was focusing on the ETSO organization. So, although we listened to the previous presentation, there is an aim from EASA to drive ETSO organizations towards the DOA. There are a lot of them at the moment which don't have one. So, the room voiced the conversation in the room revolved around how the DOA performance for TSO projects, and in particular the level of involvement, can be improved, in particular with regards to drive a lower level of involvement from the agency and leverage on the organization competencies. Mainly, we appreciated the candor from EASA. I think we talked around the future developments in driving the ETSO organizations toward DOA. So maybe there is a room for using the normal DOA activities and LOI criteria to lower the involvement of the EASA down. But of course, at that moment in time, at present, we don't have all of that. So the more and more colleagues involved in the ETSO process were wanted to understand how the agency can improve with them the ability to recognize their performance, their competencies to drive the performance down. The third topic was still on the performance feedback, though, in this particular instance. Our colleagues in the room perceived that some of the feedback is not always received timely. We discussed how the agency could improve, especially for organizations that are particularly active, how they can receive the feedback from the EASA experts more frequently or even dynamically, so at runtime. And the last topic, it's a bit controversial, it was around the EASA responsiveness to projects and in particular to LOI. The room discussed, there was a lot of feedback around how, the concerns around the EASA resources and the working practices. So it wasn't an easy discussion, but the room appreciated the EASA candor in trying to find a way to improve the situation, in particular to get a faster response or agreement to the LOI proposals to try to left shift and plan in a better way. And with this, I think I've exhausted my topics, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, and next then we have Manuela on DOA supplier control.
Good morning. My name is Manuela Hiefinger, and I would like to present the highlights from the DOA supplier control. So, okay. Basically, the requirements-centric approach is the Part 21 requirements should be also applicable for the subcontractors. General understanding of the DOA organization must be the design organization is more than just the DOA holder. It includes also partners, subcontractors, and suppliers. DOA holders should ensure directly or indirectly the subcontracted activities within the design organization are performed in compliance with Part 21 requirements as applicable and relevant. For the level of involvement and oversight of the DOA holder to subcontract activities, there should be a risk-based approach. So the DOA shall classify the safety risks and the safety risks associated to the scope of the subcontracted activities should drive the level of involvement of the DOA holders in the execution by the subcontractor of those activities and the levels of oversight to ensure compliance with Part 21. Side note is that if industry standards are accepted as AMC to Part 21 are used, the DOA holders shall develop procedures in compliance with those standards. So SMS flow down to DOA suppliers. The depth of SMS implementation shall be the requirement implementation at the subcontractors is depending on the scope and risk of the subcontracted activities. Requirements-centric approach still applies, as even mentioned above. So in one request to EASA from the industry is definitions for use of terms to indicate various scopes. The industry requests EASA to provide definitions of the terms for suppliers, subcontractors, partners, vendors, and contractors. It was already clarified during the meeting that from a DOA perspective, the process for acceptance of DOA and tasks provided by third parties is still the same. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, move to Celine for certification memorandum on additive manufacturing.
So hello everybody. I'm very happy to be here and to present you the outcome of the meeting on the additive manufacturing. So my name is Céline Auger. I'm the head of airworthiness for DAER, TC holder for TBM aircraft. So we are in a very mixed group with various stakeholders in this group on additive manufacturing. So the first outcome of this meeting was the importance of the criticality and so the proportionality that need to be implemented on the design and the manufacturing of additive manufacturing parts. So that's a good improvement introduced in the certification memorandum issue 4 that to drive the process evaluating the criticality of the parts. So now the challenge is that this point was implemented and communicated all along the process of designing and producing additive manufacturing parts, because we have a lot of new people, new entrants in this process, and this concept is not quite crystal clear for all the people involved in the process, and especially on all the supply chain. Also, we need to improve this strategy of communication and to work with the criticality as a driver for implementing this part. So another point that was highlighted during the meeting is missing of standards. The people are working to develop supporting MOC at all the level. It could be for classification of the change, but also for industrial specification, because we see that all the stakeholders are not at the same level. We are at the very different level of maturity between big companies and small organizations, and this needs to be improved to help small organizations to be able to introduce this kind of technology with the right level of safety. So the next point is on the communication. That's something that we are surprising to discover that a lot of people are not very do not really know the material which is already existing on the topics, and for example the certification memo, but also that there are workshops on the topics, and so we identified that there is a need to give more visibility, access to this EASA material to all the stakeholders, including small organization. And so maybe there is a new way of communication, of working to identify, especially on this process, which impact a lot of organization, design, but also production. And the last point is on the cabin interiors. Today we have a lot of materials, more on structural parts, but there are a lot of stakeholders which works on cabin interior, on system. We are waiting to get material on these topics to be able to improve the process and to implement this kind of parts. So that's all for the main outcomes of this meeting on additive manufacturing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Mikael on the OSD cabin crew data impact evaluation in STC projects.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Thaler. I'm CEO and Chief of Independent Monitoring of company AIMS, which is a design organization based in Austria. Today it's my pleasure to give you all the highlights we had in the site meetings related to OSD CCT and the impact on STC projects. During our very fruitful discussions, we identified two major topics I would like to address today. One of it is OSD changes related to aircraft changes in an operator fleet, which means, or the main question during the workshop was, when an operator already flies with an approved configuration and plans to extend their fleet, is OSD for the aircraft he would put on his fleet required, yes or not? The clear answer to that is yes, because the OSD change, as the design change, is always related to the MSN. The second topic we identified was CCT change classification, or related to the classification. And the question here was, if there is a minor design change, or can a minor design change also trigger an OSD change? And as given in the GM, there is also a clear answer to that. No, a minor design change cannot lead to a OSD change. There is the only exception to that is OSD, is the OSD constituent MEML. If MEML is affected, apart from that, it's not possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we move to Romain. So on cybersecurity applicability in STC projects.
Yes, good morning to everybody. I'm Romain Boncepo, Head of Design for Eclipse Techniques, DOA specialized in connectivity system. I'm proud to be there first, and very happy to report, as I've been kindly invited by the group to do this, to report on cybersecurity aspect for the STC project. So thank you to EASA first to enable discussions. Thank you to Borja and to Johannes to manage this discussion. That was very open, a lot of topics that have been addressed. 4 of them have been retained for the report today. So I will go through, not in the numerical order, but rather in the life cycle of change. So for the subject 1, change first, as an STC, I have to apply. So basically, when I apply, I need to consider properly, shall I apply for a simple project or a standard project? So taking into consideration that cybersecurity may need to have a specified experts to be appointed for the project, it can go to the management of the standard project. So the fees that are applied for the standard project may be different. So first topic that was addressed from the group. Second part, for the management of my change, I need to define the certification basis. For this, for the cybersecurity, EASA will generally recommend to use the 1319 certification specification to manage these aspects. Why? First, when I applied for this, when I designing that change, I need to apply the last CS amendment that are applicable at the date of my application. If there is no cybersecurity aspect in the TCDS of the aircraft, I need to consider the 1319 basic from the part 21. if there is some special condition addressed in the TCDS of the aircraft, the special condition may be there, but the interpretative material in terms of guidance, in terms of meaning of compliance, may not be sufficient and may require additional effort to properly apply. So that's why EASA today recommends highly to use the 1309 and its related guidance materials that are available in books too. So that's for that subject. Next one, for the investigation aspect of my modification, there can be some aspects for which I will need some TC holder data. We take the example of an interfacing system with system on the aircraft. In that case, I may have some difficulty to address the cybersecurity aspect. I need then to have some TC holder assessment. This TC holder, EASA highlights that NTO may not be sufficient at that time to properly master all my justification. So that's why I need to make sure that all the justification coming from the SCC holder will be appropriate for me to properly master what I have to demonstrate. Example was taken about the safety measures. Safety measures, I need to properly demonstrate that the safety measures are adapted to the security I'm looking for. So these are some points that needs to be properly addressed and properly controlled by my demonstration. Last aspect, in fact, coming back to subject 2, is the continued airworthiness of the aspect, the continued efficiency of the safety measure of the instruction I have implemented for management of my cybersecurity. In that case, if I need to have ICA to support my cybersecurity of my system, the point was to consider how the efficiency is properly managed. So EASA highlighted that today the part IS will be there to support this aspect. So closing the gap between my instruction and making sure that the instruction will be properly applied by the operators. So that's it for my report. Thank you again for your listening, and have a good day.
Thank you, Romain. Next, Kyle will present from the group on DOA organization objectives for artificial intelligence applications.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kyle Martin. I'm from the General Aviation Manufacturers Association, or GAMA, and I have the pleasure of leading all GAMA's activities in Europe. And I'm here to give you a presentation today on behalf of the side meeting yesterday looking at artificial intelligence and how it applies to design organizations. Firstly, an apology. I am not sufficiently competent to use an AI tool to develop a slideshow presentation to summarize 3.5 hours of complex discussions, so you'll have to make do with my limited human intelligence for this short briefing. But maybe next year we'll see that as an improvement. So, AI. It's the hot new topic all around the world in all sorts of domains. How does it apply to aviation at a higher level, and more specifically for the purpose of this conference and yesterday's discussion, how does it apply to design organizations and to the development of AI within aviation products? So we focused basically on 2 areas, and I want to really first thank Guillaume Soudin, who's the EASA program manager for the AI project, and also Carmela Bosso from the DOA team, who helped lead us through some very energetic and entertaining and I'd say educational discussions. We all learned a lot yesterday. But the big milestone is EASA has an AI roadmap. Many of you will have seen it. The 2.0 was published some time ago. But more interestingly for here, the EASA concept paper issue 2 was published in April this year. This lays out a very comprehensive assessment of all applicabilities for artificial intelligence across domains. But it does have certain limitations, and it is an ongoing development process. It was subject to an extensive public consultation, and a great number of many of you and your organizations will have commented on it. But just to highlight, the stepped approach EASA is taking is also being guided by higher level requirements coming from the European Commission in Brussels and the famous EU AI Act, which does provide some also limitations, constraints, and requirements on EASA. But the stepwise approach EASA is taking is looking at level 1, level 2 machine learning products or concepts only, looking at offline only, so it's not onboard active AI on the flying product, but how it can be initially used on the offline side of things, and limited to anything that can contribute to a major failure mode classification or less. This is the current step approach for the concept paper. The concept paper is publicly available on the EASA website. I invite you all to read it at your leisure, and it is already being actively used by EASA on certification projects and referenced as a special condition. But the longer term is what's coming next. So EASA has rulemaking task 742, not 24 that's on the slide, so minor typo there. That'll be updated in the final version of the slides to share with you. So rulemaking task 742 is launched early this year, which has been supported by an expert group from across the different industry sectors, not just design organizations, but across the other domains as well. So that is developing what will become the Part AI, as EASA foresees it, a transversal set of requirements plus a series of instantiations in the relevant implementing regulations like Part 21. That rulemaking task is ongoing. We'll go through the normal process for consultation, engagement, and so on. But it is important to distinguish between AI tools. So if I'd used ChatGPT to write this presentation, that's very distinct from having AI on board, say, the avionics and software of a flying aircraft. There's a clear distinction there, and the focus we really got into in the discussion yesterday on the right-hand side is how it applies to DOAs whenever an applicant is considering applying AI within the design of a product, which is an interesting area of technology development. But it's worth highlighting a DOA would need to apply to EASA for a significant change to its design assurance system prior to the application of a certification project. That is a series of implications that need to be well understood in advance. The EASA concept paper that I referenced earlier does have a very detailed section C.6, which lays out the organizational requirements and the implications for AI development within the different DOA competencies and requirements on the organization. We essentially agreed that there's going to be a two-gated approach, first dealing with the AI trustworthiness for any future application, and then triggering the 3 different AI building blocks from that trustworthiness assessment to help develop the tool. And maybe just to illustrate this, this is a decomposition of the effective responsibilities, functions, and requirements for design organization approval, but we also looked at how that maps onto the various standardized or generic organizational requirements that the EASA AI concept paper laid out. So there are 8 high-level organizational requirements in the concept paper, and this schematic is there to show you how those would align with the various responsibilities and requirements for design organizational approval. Some are obvious, so cybersecurity, adapting your internal procedures to the DOA scope. Some are somewhat new because one of the requirements from the EU AI Act is to consider ethics in the concept of artificial intelligence. And it's an interesting concept when you look at how ethics applies to the design of an aviation product and how that can actually be adapted. And EASA has done some further work, which I don't have time to share with you today, on how that will actually be implemented on a practical level to ensure that any future AI technologies certified by EASA are compliant with both the EU regulations and the upcoming EASA regulations. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Kyle. And then we move to the last side meeting. So Romina will present on composite materials handbook updates. Side group.
Good morning. I'm Romina from System X Ceramic Coating, now with offices in Europe, in Malta. And our group session was titled Composite Materials Handbooks Update. That took place yesterday afternoon with the support of Melanie Herman and Manfred Reichel. On behalf of the workshop team members, I would like to thank you for your guidance and support. While the discussions were broad, we identified 3 key subjects to highlight. Okay, so this must be the slide of... Apologies, this must be the slide that was delivered in the morning, but I'm going to take you through the discussions that happened in the afternoon. So the first one was outreach. We came to an agreement that events like this and workshops like these are extremely important to hold because they enhance knowledge and raise awareness. The strategic priorities helps us as industry professionals to adapt global best practices, improve technical expertise, and elevate our service quality. Therefore, as a key takeaway, we are eager to participate in future workshops organized by EASA, as highlighted by Florian in the opening remarks, reinforced by Marcella as well during the regulatory update presentation. These workshops will focus on advanced techniques, innovative products, and valuable industry insights. We look forward to leveraging these opportunities for growth and collaboration. These webinars will serve as an educational platform to teach and guide us professionals, as well as foster growth and innovation in the aviation sector. And I must say that this goes very much hand in hand with what Celine mentioned earlier when it comes to communication. The second subject that we highlighted was the qualification for alternate materials for repair. The issue at hand is the unavailability of original materials specified in the structure repair manual, which poses challenges. While metallic materials offer a broad range of alternatives, we discussed that this is not the case for composites. This time around, we turn to you as industry stakeholders to contribute and put forward proposals to support this effort. It has also been noted that a project to qualify standard alternative materials has been initiated through the SDO. The last subject that we put forward was the modification of primary structure elements. The issue identified is the damage in non-PSC components that can pose potential safety risks. Therefore, what measures should be taken for non-PSCs? The discussions in the SEA standards emphasize the need to evaluate the criticality of such components. Damage tolerance for PSCs is required, but should damage tolerance be also considered at production level? For this reason, establishing a clear framework for damage assessment is essential. So that would be our outcome. So in conclusion to all these discussions, we underline the importance of proactive measures to enhance safety. Aligning with EASA's mission, your safety is our mission. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Romina. Now, if we can go to Slido and see if we have any questions for your colleagues. Okay, so here, suppliers. When will EASA start to audit suppliers such as flammability labs to avoid every DOA to audit them and give SMS training? I don't know whether this was discussed in the group, so this wasn't discussed in the group yesterday. I don't know whether we have anybody to talk about this at the front. No. Okay, then we have to, I mean, we can take note of these questions and try and come back to you on that one, but okay. LOI, how binding is LOI agreement if PCM experts want document review despite LOI risk class 1 was agreed? I don't know, was this discussed yesterday? Yeah, if you want to, sorry.
Sure. Yeah, so we briefly touched on this. It wasn't probably the most controversial topic, so it didn't go on the slide. But yeah, I think the LOI principles are to left shift all the planning work. So this is a tool for organizations to basically try to come up with an agreement super early in their program. So having an agreement is useful. Of course, as the program develops, there are always unknown unknowns. And I think when we probed the knowledge in the room, we realized that Part 1 actually grants the authority, the agency, access to everything they want, even if there's an agreement. So while it's useful to plan, the unknown unknowns are there. And if there's anything to deviate, if there is something in addition to what was agreed, just because it's needed from the authority, that is necessary to be supplied. So I wouldn't say it's the best effort rather than binding, but it's always possible to go somewhere else and look for additional information.
Thank you. Maybe I'll stand up for this bit. So DOA competence management, developing a standard can help DOAs, but as AMC, this might take away the flexibility of DOAs as given in Part 21, maybe as a GM. So I don't know, on DOA competency, was this discussed?
Yes, we mentioned AMC. I would say in the group the concept was to have non-binding material to be prepared and considered. So yes, AMC or GM.
Okay, thank you. The next one on LOI again. So how does EASA foresee an adequate application of the CM from the EASA experts? Was this something that was discussed in the group yesterday?
Yes, Colin. I mean, this is probably something more for your colleagues, but we did probe into that, and the outcome of the answer to that question is EASA has supplied more training last year to their staff, including PCMs and experts, on the back of a survey done in 2022. So I think with more training will come a better application. That's the expectation at least, but there's always room for improvement.
Yes, agree. Thank you. Additive manufacturing, but also other relevant EASA workshops, proceedings, considered binding as CERT memo can be. Well, I think I can say anything that happens in a workshop, no, it's not binding. I think it's fair to say that. This is where we work with our best of our knowledge with you. We think they're very good to have these exchanges. But if we can take back outcomes from these and put them into our material where it's appropriate. But what comes out from the meeting itself is not binding and has no regulatory standing. So I think we could. On to the next one. AI. Does EASA plan to implement AI consultation and decision tools trained on available EASA materials, avoid differences in opinions, spread up the projects? Was that discussed, Kyle, yesterday?
I think essentially this was not very much discussed, apart from a few jokes that maybe one day we'll have an artificial intelligence PCM certifying projects, but I think you'll be glad to hear that is far off beyond most of our lifetimes. We were really focused yesterday on the artificial intelligence as applied to products and what that means for an applicant, what it means as a DOA process. But that's not to say there aren't improvements like we saw in the earlier presentation this morning. There's obviously digital tools being developed by the agency that we talked about this afternoon. Maybe at the future, EASA can look at other ways of speeding things up. I'm sure EASA would be very grateful if the rulemaking consultation process could somehow be use artificial intelligence to process all the industry comments, for example, but that was not really the focus of our discussion yesterday. It was much more product and DOA focused.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. And just from my side, whenever we do a rulemaking task, we try and look more and more at the implementation of it. So both internal for EASA to ensure that we have a consistent approach. So when there is an AI rulemaking, we need to look at how we ensure that everybody is taking a consistent approach, but also that we have some outreach and appropriate outreach and communications also for external stakeholders like yourself to ensure that there's a good exchange of information and communications on that. And then one more question, how EASA is going to educate MROs supplying AM parts to airlines directly without proper consideration of adequate certification processes. So on additive manufacturing, was there any discussion on this aspect? No. No, so I don't think we have, it's something we can look at with our colleagues from Flight Standards, but on this one, we can tell, Joaquin, you have a, yes, if there's a mic, there should be a mic down here.
Yep, so Joaquin Duran, coming from FS. As you know, production is within FS in EASA. So by additive manufacturing, first of all, MROs, they don't have a privilege to fabricate. They can only make repairs. So there's no need to educate. They can only use approved data for maintenance. The approval is coming from a certification basis. I don't see the need to educate anyone.
Okay, thanks, Joaquin. Then that seems to be the end of the questions. So I think we finished there for today, but I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everybody who came up here. I mean, they came here to listen and they end up on stage. So we really appreciate and we really appreciate your inputs. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so now we move on to the last presentation for this morning. which is working with EASA continued feedback. So I'd like to invite to the stage Francois Duclos, who's an executive expert on certification at Airbus, and Cedric Chevrel, who is the Airworthiness Certification Director at Thales, and are here to provide feedback from the SAB AG005 group.
So good morning. The last team of the morning. So a little bit of attention. We have been presented, thank you. And we would like to also to tell you that we know in the room a lot of partners and colleagues. And we want to tell you, hello, we are pleased to be with you. So coming back to the point, next slide, please. We have been asked to give a testimony on how it is possible to work with EASA, which is good to know, okay? And you know that the theme said by Florian this morning is about working together. So we finish the morning by a testimony. Yes, it is possible to work with EASA. Yes, we can make good work with them, but there are still some situations where we agree, we disagree. That's life. So now the content of the presentation of this morning. Next one. Ah ben, faut faire next avec ça, d'accord. It will be easier. So we'll give you a little bit of background of what is a SAB, this new bird. It's not a so new bird. We'll explain. And what is AG005. So when we speak about simplification, you need really to be an expert to understand what SAB AG005 means. To make it short, it's a certification strategy activity group in a good pragmatic way. We'll explain some activities, what we did, what we do with this working group, some achievements, way of improvements, and synthesis. And we are two this morning with Cedric. You will hear the same voice, but with different tonalities. Alors, background of the SAB. Last year, Gilles Garouste, previously working in Dassault, made a presentation of the new SAB organization. So it's a statutory bodies as per the basic regulation, which is consulted stakeholder advisory board by EASA on a regulatory basis, let's say to review, en English, en français pour les Anglais, l'état de l'Union, as the US would say, we review all what matters in our environment related to aviation. And in this SAB, you know that there are 6 sectorial communities, which are the commercial aviation, the general aviation, the rotorcraft, drones and urban air mobility, aerodromes, and air traffic management and air navigation services. So 6 sectorial communities which mandate work to activity groups, so-called AGs, and they mandate work which are either specific to a community or common to all the community. And the certification has been recognized as a transverse topic for the 6 communities, and we have been empowered to work with EASA on the topic validated by the SAB. So we meet, previously it was called the CCOM. Alors we are at the end of the morning, and the French speaker, I allow me this joke, we need a little bit of fresh air. We have replaced CECOM by CESAGE, if I may. You want to follow? Difficult to translate. Voilà. So this activity group covers, but it is very important, really it's a strategic group. It covers the strategic need of the certification and product and organizations. It is in continuity with the previous CCOM, and we work to the benefit of the 6 SAB communities. I allowed me this word, but you understand that we need a little bit of... Voilà, the composition of this group, AG005, it includes 10 members, represented the manufacturer of the European Unions, either TC holder, STC holder, or ETSO. It is shared by the industry, and there is an EASA secretary which prepares this meeting on a quarterly basis and validates the work package item by the SAB, and at the end, the decision or actions we take during this SAB are validated and agreed by EASA certification director Rachel Deschler, who is there, and we thank you for this support in this activity group.
Thank you, François. So, some very good achievement of the AG 005. First, it's a big stone, the 737 MAX crisis. The accident consequence was well anticipated and worked out with the EASA. We work together on 4 work packages, human factor link with safety during a certification project, the link between human factor and continued airworthiness to close the loop. Work package 3 was about the development assurance, a big topic also, and the 4 was about how to handle the derivative project. So big achievement on this topic. The second point is about ETSO framework. We have a fruitful cooperation on ETSO topic between EASA and EU industry to work on the future updated ETSO framework. We are aligned, I think, that even if the system between FAA and EASA are different, the two systems should be kept well balanced in terms of effort for industry and still in favor of safety. Third achievement, as Mario well demonstrated in the presentation, international cooperation between EASA and foreign authority are well managed by agency and coordination with industry for the benefit of the product validation by the manufacturer in Europe. So thank you to you, Mario. Next. Alors, it was a positive slide. Now, the way of improvement. The two first are on the way of working. The first one is about how we tool that. We deploy a new platform, the EASA platform tool, to manage the work package items, the achievement and the action. This will take time. As François explained, we take 1 year in the AG 005 to tackle the tool, to well use the tool, because it's a quite big tool. So first point. Second point, as AG 005 is a transverse working group, we need to coordinate with other activity groups for the benefit of all the community, the 6 community of the SAB. This also will take time because it's a kind of matrix to make the link and so on. So this is for the way of working. And the last are more on the topic themselves, the kernel of the topic. We have still some slow progress on dimensioning topics for industry. There are no surprise for you when I have seen the exchange this morning, in fact. And these topics are, I insist on that, are very dimensioning whatever the size of manufacturer, big or small companies in the room today. First topic, the design organization performance measurement and the link with the LOI and the privilege of the DOA. The connection, we think the connection is not today correctly done. You well notice that SMS compliance has taken time, 2 years to tackle the conformity. It was slow. And now we have the ISMS and the part IS to eat, I would say. And it's a big step to achieve this compliance with the hard deadline in October 2025. And last thing, not in the slide, is we also observe an increasing use of certif memorandum instead of AMC. We want to remind that use of certif memo should not replace AMC rulemaking, and one of the reasons, and not the only one, as we traditionally say, is that AMC is the counterpart of advisory circular, and if we want a well-balanced and harmonized system, we need rulemaking on AMC, even if it takes time to have in front of FAA or other foreign authority the sistership of the AMC in the framework of foreign authority. That's all for me.
So thank you, Cedric. So the synthesis, we wanted to testify, to make a testimony in front of you that we have a robust functioning of the AG 005 with an efficient working relation with EASA, which is based on mutual respect of the stakeholders, a proper listening, and tangible achievement. You know, there is a famous word in management, someone or industry, it's well known, it If you want to go quick, you work alone. If you want to go far, you work together. So it is true that we go sometimes step by step. We have just recently closed a point which was 2.5 years old. And at the end, we said, why couldn't we do it so quicker? Because your solution is so simple. But sometimes it takes time to be simple. So we progress together. This being said, it's also an invitation to all of you in this room. The SAB reorganization was a huge investment done with EASA, the European Commission, and we have now the 6 communities with a community steering group, and we invite you to use these communities to escalate and to report your topics. There is not only the AG005, but other communities have other groups, and they are very useful. What we want also to say is that for us, at the beginning I said sometimes we agree, we disagreed. That's true. This being said, we have a relationship, industry and authority in this group, which is based on a vis-à-vis and respect relation, not master to slave, which is very important. But sometimes we agree, we disagree. This is life. And the simplification of both the processes and the requirements for us remain a point of concern to be worked out with EASA in the coming months. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both. If you'd like to take a seat here, and then we can, you're mic'd up so we can take a look, and if we can go to Slido and see if we have any questions. No. Okay, no, apparently we have no questions currently.
Parfait.
They are hungry.
Yeah, probably. I mean, as mentioned, we will now anyway have a general question. So I take the opportunity to thank you both. Thank you very much. It's good to get this feedback, and we always try to improve, and we will see what we can do. So thank you very much. And we now move to open questions. So if you want to go back to your seats, then you're welcome. So as mentioned earlier, we now have, I think, as long as potentially 20 minutes to answer any questions you may have on the theme of working with EASA. So it can be based on the presentations you've seen this morning, and we will try and get the right responses to those. Or if you have any other questions on that theme, then we can look at those. So we just give you a few moments to try and enter. And if not, then we go to lunch early, but we can always start earlier this afternoon and allow a bit more time for this afternoon's presentations. No, nothing. Okay. By the way, we will be putting recordings from today's conference. We'll go on to the YouTube channel, as we've done with previous conferences in the previous years. So, and that should include visibility of the slides that you've seen on the screen today. Okay, so we have one. Is there still an effort to revoke ETSO from organization located in China? What is the agreement on that with CAC? I don't know when I'm looking whether Mario or Charles know about that, or Gregory, do you know about that one? Sorry, as you're just walking back.
Okay, maybe I can try to take this one. The agreement we have with CAC that, as a matter of principle, whenever there is an agreement that is granted by one party to a company located in the other party, in respect to the bilateral agreement, the party should grant their own approval, and it would be validated. So typically, an ETSOA that would have been granted to China, in the principle, should normally get the equivalent from the Chinese side, and then we would validate it. That's the plan. But we agreed also to take the time to see in each situation on a case by case. So that is what we can answer to this one. And obviously, each situation is specific on its own. It depends on the kind of company, the kind of ETSOA that has been granted.
Okay, thanks, Charles. Okay. Part IS. So another one. Part IS is due for DOAs, POAs by October 2025, before the other organizations, CAMO, MRO. Does the EASA plan to team up with local NAAs for the validation of Part IS? So, I'm looking down here to see there should be.
Yes, on that question, there is a task force between EASA and NAAs on Part IS. So indeed, the dialogue is constant. And wherever possible, it was a question yesterday, we organized joint audits between NAA and the EASA organization approval team leaders. So indeed, the contact is very intense between NAAs and us on this topic. As we are driving policy, which will affect both NAA inspectors and EASA inspectors, this is done as much as possible in harmonization with the NAAs.
Okay, thanks, Gregory. If we go to the next one. So, based on the EASA feedback on last year's CT conference restaffing level projections, is the EASA staffing level increase on track? Do you want to say something on that, Rachel?
Good morning, everybody. Rachel Dischler, I'm Certification Director. So on the resource question, we have been increasing quite a bit over the past 2 years to a good level, and we will continue to ramp up until beginning of next year. And then the expectation is that we will be stable in number of resources. And this increase is obviously giving us the challenges, the positive and very good challenges of having to integrate new people, of having to train them, to mentor them. And we are talking about PCMs, about experts, about DOA team leaders. But what we expect now is a stabilization of the resources, which means that in addition to integrating those newcomers, because it takes quite some time to fully train an experienced certification expert, we also need to work very attentively on efficiency gains. Where can we make efficiency gains? Where can we work in a better way? Where can we work less in terms of less LOI or less engagement on some projects, more delegation to industry, less validation work. So there are a number of areas where we need to pay attention in the coming months and years for efficiency and less engagement to be able to improve, maintain, and if possible, improve the level of service we are providing to you. And we hear very loud and clear all the remarks, all the issues we have with timelines, with planning, with responsiveness. We really need to tackle that. And we also need to free capacity to work on, on the next question about our capacity to help you preparing the future in the frame of pre-application work, whenever this is needed on innovation in particular. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. So the next question on SEI tailored list. Is there a chance to be deployed soon? So I've looked towards Mario, I think. On this.
Well, the simple answer is yes, for sure. We are pushing on this since a while, and we are told by FAA that we are in the final landing of it. Okay. So, good hopes. Yes.
Thank you, Mario.
I didn't mention that because we were more focusing on CS related, but this is a topic that is clearly taken as a matter of priority on the bilateral with FAA.
Okay, thanks, Mario. And then the next question, which was touched on already by Rachel, but what is EASA's preparedness to work on innovative services, for example, pre-application contracts, considering resources being a challenge at EASA? So I can just add a little bit on that, but yes, so we are prepared. We are working on a number of these with various different applicants, but naturally resources are constrained, and this is why, as Rachel mentions, we need to look for efficiencies in the ways we're working to free them up. Naturally, our mandatory tasks have to take priority, things like continuing airworthiness and applications under Part 21 for changes, but we still have resource earmarked to support these efforts. And of course, it needs to make sense. So when people come to us, we don't want to work the same topic with 3 or 4 different potential pre-application. It's best to try and make sure that we do that in an efficient way. If we do it with one early, then it's about being able to share the generic aspects that come out from those for everybody, so that when we're going forward and we can start to issue some sort of either policies or special conditions to demonstrate the work that's coming out of those. So yes, we are working on that and try to make room within our resources to address that appropriately. So on to the next one. What can be done when experts, PCMs, do not provide feedback on DOA performance at the closure of STC projects? So all I can say on this, I think there was an issue at one point where there were cases where it was not clear and we weren't tracking very well the feedback of the experts when we wanted to close a project. For a while now, we've been doing more or less analyzing to identify projects where essentially this is outstanding so that we can keep following up. And today, it should be much less the case that there should be outstanding feedback or waiting in order to close the STC projects. If there's a case of this that you're waiting for, please let us know. We will try and address it, but we are monitoring this, as I say, the projects, and we should address this. And in future, we tend to try and go to a more, at the moment, it's a bit manually worked inside EASA, and we try to go for a more automatic, so we have much clearer visibility of where this is the case and outstanding so that we can address it more quickly in future. Okay, next question. Does EASA plan to provide update DOA performance on a more dynamic scheme? It may allow DOAs to benefit from their good performance in their future STCs. I don't know, do you want to say something on that, Gregory? Or?
Well, on this, on performance measurement, generally speaking, I can refer to one of the bullet points of Cédric and François' presentation. This is a topic which has been high on the agenda of the AG05 for some time now, and we created a working group between industry and EASA to work on this. Took a bit of time to put the terms of reference together, but we are there now. The teams have been appointed on both sides, and they should start work in January. So the scope of this group is quite wide, but it addresses the way we measure performance, the way we collect performance, the way we compute data on performance feedback per project, and as François said, the way we link the LOI with the measured performance. So I think the point mentioned here should be captured by this group's work, which hopefully should start in January.
Okay. Thanks, Gregory. Then the next item, so on agility and digitalization, is there a published standard from EASA to automate machine-to-machine data and documents exchange for CPAC? So the short answer is no, not yet. But this is a really good segment into this afternoon's. So they have the AG002, and they will be presenting this afternoon, which are working with EASA pretty much on this topic on digitalization, and I think you should hear more about that later on today. Okay, so we move to the next one. Will EASA update AMC or guidance material in light of work completed by the CMT task-specific teams for common mode error? So typically and I know there was a question from you, Eric, earlier on more or less along these lines. Basically what we do is when there is a CMT white paper that is adopted and agreed by all authorities, then it can already be used for interpretation on projects. They can mention that in their certification basis, but ultimately we look at putting that into our regulatory framework in the most appropriate place. So if there is outcome for that, it will ultimately go there. It probably goes in probably into a regular update or something like that, depending on the nature of it, because it's considered already agreed by as a TST, then it should be considered not so controversial. But ultimately, that is the objective, that each of the CMT authorities put that into their own regulatory framework. Next question. What is the EASA's guidance for companies in gateway process, DOA or TC, and no DOA, team leader or PCM allotted? There are points where potential applicants need guidelines. So up to now, it's been used only on DOA, so I don't know, do you want to say something on that, Gregory, from the DOA aspect?
The DOA and ETSO as well. Huh? So the way we are dealing with that, because the number of organizations in the so-called gateway, this was mentioned by Florian this morning, is increasing. So we are putting in place some procedures to prioritize. So what we've done lately, we've written to all the organizations in the gateway and asked them, is it critical for your business? Because some organizations had applied really upfront, and they tell us, well, anyway, we're not fully ready, we have a few years ahead of us, so it's not critical. Others are telling us it's super critical, we may lose customers if we don't start the DOA process now. So this allows us to do a first priority list. What we found out at the last exercise is that even with this first categorization, we didn't have enough capacity for those who are critical. So we went one step further. We asked them to fill a self-assessment on their maturity level. Because what we find that sometimes organizations consider it super urgent, but they are super not ready. And it burns a lot of our resources to work with a non-mature organization. So we've produced guidelines to support those applicants. And that's the next step we are now considering, to give priority to those who have a business urgency and which are relatively mature. And this is the step we are in now, and we expect in the coming weeks, months, to allocate a few new applications to DOA team leaders. So some of the organizations in the gateway should move out. But today, the average is a few months, close to 1 year in the gateway. So this relates to what Rachel just said on the resource constraints we are facing.
Okay, thanks, Gregory. Next question. How does the EASA approve flight test organizations? Is it always approved as part of a DOA, or could it be independent? I don't know, Manfred? Maybe. Okay.
Yes, good morning. Actually, it's the same like with the flammability labs and so on. We know only DOA, APDOA, and this kind of things. So a flight test organization by itself as a flight test organization cannot be approved by EASA. This must be done always in the light of a DOA. Of course, you can put more emphasis on the side of the flight test, but the cover is the DOA.
Okay, thanks, Manfred. Next question. So, how is the EASA cooperation with different competent authorities is going in terms of implementation of integrated SMS between DOAs and POA, MOA? If someone's got a mic there to pass to.
Hi, Joaquin Duran again, production organizations within EASA. Here we have a few possibilities. Now we're into the implementation mode. So we have been together with City and FS, we've been reaching out to the member states. So this activity that is reaching the completion. And also the second element would be standardization. So now that the SMS is applicable, that would go into the standardization, and the standardization visits will ensure that this is implemented equally across all member states.
Okay, okay. Do you want to pass the mic so everybody can hear, and then in this case we just do?
How do you address the conflict of interpretation of SMS rules between DOA and the POA and MOA organizations? Because suppose in different countries as well, basically.
So here we have some limitations. When the DOA and the POA authorities are the same, this is easy. Just pick up the phone, we are within EASA, and we communicate. I mean, we're in the same building, we somehow align. This is a bit more complex when we're talking member states, POA, as many as 27 of them, and then DOAs within EASA. In that case, it's more complicated, but we are still open for contact. So the authorities, the national authorities, they can reach out to, I hope I'm not saying anything, I mean, I'm talking under the supervision of my colleagues, but they're still reachable, and if there is questions, we can communicate. So probably,
Okay, thank you.
To add here a little bit, actually we are always trying to have also the POA on site if you go for SMS. So we try to coordinate as much as possible between the DOA and the POA, even if the POA is covered by the national authority. It doesn't work every time, I have to say, but we try the best to coordinate here, because very often those companies have an overarching handbook for that, and of course it makes sense to coordinate.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both for that. Next question. Following the update of CM 21A, 21B001, will EASA create a new panel for cybersecurity? I think in this case it's staying as part of Panel 6, but at the moment we have no intention of creating a dedicated panel. I mean, we monitor things, how they go forward, but it stays as part of Panel 6. Hopefully that was grouped with the avionics. Hopefully that was answering that question. Next one, NPA. Does the EASA foresee performing impact assessment with respect to applicability? New TC, major, not significant? So I'm not sure I fully understand which MPA they're referring to here, but typically if we do major rulemaking changes, then we run an impact assessment. This looks more like it's relating to CPR. And at the moment, we have a CPR working group, which is far from finished, based around the FAA ARC, where we will continue to work with both other authorities to try and make sure we remain harmonized and industry members through the ARC. Depending on the changes that come out, because it's more of an adjustment of the existing rule, I would not necessarily expect an impact assessment. But if we do see, I mean, this is something we will need to, when we see what's coming out, then maybe we need to perform an impact assessment, but it's maybe a bit early to say where that group is going on change project rule. Can EASA publish the template for IS handbook as required in Part IS in advance of the GM AMC update? I don't know. Can you help on that one, Gregory or Manfred, or no?
Well, here I think we take the point we need to refer the question to the SM colleagues.
Okay, yes. Okay, and then one more question. Is EASA envisaging to release the criteria for the use of the DOA privilege in approved certain major changes or STC, e.g. special condition prevents the use of the privilege?
I can take that one. So there were a number of discussions with industry as well under AG005 on certain major change privileges, and a working group was established. So it could have been one of the success stories. The working group worked in a first stage on cabin configuration privileges, and there some degree of flexibility in the interpretation of AMC was agreed between EASA and industry, in particular on the consideration of the similarity and the envelope of similar changes which were previously approved. So this is one of the achievements, but it was for now restricted to cabin configuration. So it's in the to-do list of the AG05 to extend that work to other domains, but they are prioritizing, and this for now is not the highest priority, but it's in the queue. So we may extend that discussion to other domains in the future.
Thank you, Gregory, and you might be needed on the next one. Has the EASA established the audit mechanism / process for ISMS similar to SMS?
Yep, so the short answer is no, but it goes a bit beyond that. We have a task group identified. It was already mentioned this morning. So within EASA, we have a task force to help inspectors and to provide material for supporting this assessment. So no today, the answer is no, but we are working on it.
Okay, thank you. Does the EASA foresee integrating the MRB process under Part 21 certification process DOA privilege? I think at the moment there is no plan to do that directly. I mean, it's supporting the ICA aspects, but we're not foreseeing any rule change to address this at the moment on that one. Okay. Then, actually, I think we are more or less at the allocated lunch time. So I would break there, and then the lunch now runs to 1:45. So enjoy your lunch, and look forward to seeing you all again this afternoon. Thank you very much.
What has always amazed me is our capacity to adapt ourselves to the new challenges.
I feel that I'm making a difference and the skies are safer.
EASA, as the agency of the European Union, is also cooperating with international partners to ensure the highest level of safety at global level.
And to me, that is a sign of a healthy community working towards a common goal.
We help and listen to our internal and external stakeholders, and together we form a community.
I think it's fascinating what is going on. We really accompany the development of aviation.
Environmental sustainability has been at the heart of the agency from day one. Reducing engine emissions and noise has been part of the original remit of the agency.
We are passionate about aviation and your safety.
Your safety?
Your safety.
Your safety is our mission.